Game Beans, I'm RFXX, and today we're doing another one. All the guides I've been doing will be in the description below, or maybe on the screen, because we now have a new annotation so we can externally link to www.thegamebeans.co.uk. Under Alfie, all my guides will be there. Today we're going to do with the Warlock. Let's start off with the spec. There is multiple different specs, or 3 different ones you can use. All of them are 61 Warlock. There's this one here where you have you have the Necro for the Flesh Rot, obviously, and then you got 7 in Pyro for the Burning Fury, and no pushback on your casting, so that's quite good, especially if it's an AoE fight. Or you can swap out the 7 Pyro and go for 6 in Harbinger, so we have 10% more spell power, and then then you have another dot, Blazing Light, and then you would put the extra point back into Necro. Or finally you can go with 15 Necro, so 2 more in reduced ignore, armor and resistance, and then 10 into increase your death damage by 10%, so that means all your dots and your everything you cast will all be 10% more damage. So it depends how you want to do it. All of them, especially this one with the Necro and Pyro and the Harbinger, Harbinger, are very close. After passing quite a lot, they kind of swap around most of the time. People say this one does more, but it probably does more on bosses because of the no pushback on your casting when you're doing Void Bolt. That's about it. So you can choose, you can play around with all 3 of them, choose which one you want like best. So, what buffs do you need? You need Warlock Armor, Nedra's Might, and then what abilities you need. Well, there's going to be quite a few dots in this spec, but hopefully you'd only have to put them on once, apart from one or 2, depending which spec you're in. So you want to have Dark Touch, Antripony, Necrosis, Contaminate, Death Store, Life Leech, and Defile. Make sure that you also have Sacrifice Life Damage and Empower Darkness on your bar. Any macros, there are 2 for this spec. There are Void Bolt and Draining Bolt and Void Bolt, and then the refresh, stop casting, persist. You can have Void Barrage in a macro with stop casting in, but as it's a channel, I find that sometimes if you're spamming the button, it will stop channeling, and it means you have to use your oh shit button. I don't really have it. I don't have it right now, but in the Warlock tree, there is something called Salvage Corruption and Deathly Pal. Salvage Corruption removes all the death dots that are on the boss and then stores it onto you, and then Deathly Pal will apply all the dots that you had from Salvage Corruption and on the boss back onto the mob. So this can either be used for target switching, or either if you oh shit and you've done something wrong with the Void Barrage or something like that. You can macro these together, this one on top and then that one underneath. It will be in the guide below. There are stuff like mass spheres and interrupts and all that kind of stuff, but we're not going to go over that first. Oh crap. Anything else we need to do with this? We need to have a start rotation, or starting rotation for this. You start with Life Leech and then go with Antripony. I go with Necrosis, File and Dark Touch, but I believe it doesn't really matter. If you go in the description below, I believe there is another version what I just said, which is, yeah, exactly what I just said. Antripony, Necrosis, File, Dark Touch. That's how we're going to start. So anything else we need to know? Either when you refreshing your dots with Void Bolt and Persist, make sure that Antripony is on 0 or 1 second when you're using Persist, and for Void Barrage make sure it's either on 3 or 4 time left to go. When you're resetting your dots, you either want to have Empower Darkness on. I would suggest using this when the dots are at around about 8 seconds left, so then you have time to have as much Void Bolts as well as the refresh for 40%. Every time you refresh your dots, you want to use Contaminate when you don't have Empower Darkness up, and you want to use Sacrifice Life for damage at the start, but also you want to use it just after you refresh the dots so you can get as much damage on Void Bolt as you can. So let's have a try. I might mess this up because it's quite hard to talk and do this at the same time, but let's go. So put sacrifice life damage on life leech and then go for dots, dot, dot, and dot. But as you see, I got an instant cast with life leech, which means this might go a little bit skew with, but let's go. Right, we should be fine. Right, anti-pony and put what contaminate on, and now, and then you do persist. Now I'm going to use empowered darkness. So then on my next reset, which will be now, all my dots will have an extra 40% more damage on, as well as I still have empowered darkness on. I could use sacrifice life damage now, but that would be a waste. So then wait until persist is off cooldown and contaminate on and use it, and now go straight on sacrifice life damage. So now you do more damage on void bolt and draining bolt whenever they cast. Oh, bit of lag there, and now just because of my lag I probably might not be able to get all those dots. Oh, I did get all the dots. Jesus Christ, I was not expecting that. So let's carry on, just keep on spamming the spam macro, and then as you can see, and now as late as possible use anti-pony. Use it as late as possible, so then it means you have enough time on void barrage. So we've got to go use void barrage again. Let's see if I don't lag this time. And perfect. And refresh with 40% more damage on. So this is pretty much the whole spec. You will be able to do more damage than this, than what I'm doing now, but it's quite hard to talk and do this at the same time. But you know, that's pretty much the whole spec. And if there is a slightly different. The slightly different is death store. It's like we can't use that right now because the mob isn't at below 50% more health. But when the mob is at 50% less health, you want to make sure you use death store, which is a 10-second cooldown, and it's a dot. It's an 8-second dot. You want to make sure you use it when anti-pony, the one that you refresh, is at 8 seconds. So that means when you refresh with either void barrage or persist, you also refresh death door as well. So that means it will stay on for technically 16 seconds like everything else, but you have to keep on putting it on every 16 seconds, which is a bit weird. If you're using the Harbinger one, use Blazing Light as soon as it comes off cooldown, as long as you make sure you prioritize the refreshing first. That's about it for this guide. Make sure you try it out. It does do a lot of DPS. You can, for AoE, stick Nadra's Grasp on the boss and then use Radiant Death, and all your dots that you have on the boss or mob currently will be switched on to every other single mob around you. So this can be very good for AoE cleaving. So make sure you try this spec out. It might be good. See you later. Make sure to check out the guide.